So this is pathogens and infection. This is the next topic. First thing that you need to know is you need to know that infectious diseases are caused by pathogens. So a pathogen is a microorganism that causes disease. This word, microorganism, micro means small, organism means living thing, so a microorganism is just a living thing that is too small to see. Okay. You need to know how pathogens, microorganisms that cause disease, are spread. So pathogens are spread between people in many ways. Some of the main ones that you need to know are, first one we'll do, water. So an example of something that's spread in water is the cholera bacterium. In London, there was a guy called John Snow, and he figured out that loads of people in London were dying and nobody knew why. What he did was he got a map of London and the death records, and he plotted on the map where people were dying, and he found that the deaths were concentrated around this street in London called Broad Street, and on Broad Street was a water pump. So the deaths were all concentrated around this water pump and they were spread out in other places. So John Snow was the first guy to figure out that this water pump was the source of the cholera bacterium. Because what these people had was cholera, which is basically where you drink a water that's infected with this and you get severe vomiting and massive amounts of diarrhea. You lose loads of fluid and you die of dehydration because you've lost all that fluid that you're not replacing. So what he did was, on this street called Broad Street in London, he figured out that it was the water pump on Broad Street that was infected, and he took the handle off the water pump. And loads of people complained at the time. Why was he doing that? But that's because he figured out that water was a source of pathogens that caused this. Once he took the handle off the pump, people could no longer come and drink the infected water, and the cholera deaths decreased. So that's the first way that these pathogens can spread. A second way that I'll put here is in food. The main example of a pathogen in food that you need to know is salmonella. And salmonella is found in things like undercooked or uncooked chicken. So that's food. So we've got water and food. If you undercook your chicken or eat raw chicken that contains this, it's a bacteria. You also experience things like vomiting and diarrhea. And that's the spelling. Okay, the next way that a pathogen can be spread is in the air. So this is things like sneezing and coughs. When you sneeze, droplets of mucus and water can actually shoot out your nose at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour. So the pathogens can get into the air. An example of a pathogen would be the influenza virus. And this causes flu. So when you sneeze, droplets that contain this virus can come out of your nose and mouth and infect other people. So we've done 3 so far. Number 1, water. Number 2, food. And number 3, air. Next one, number 4, is by contact or touch. A major pathogen that's spread by contact is athlete's foot. It's got this name because if you wear sweaty trainers and you don't change your socks, you can get this fungus that grows on your feet, which basically is horrible, and it makes your skin in between your toes peel and get all funky and smelly, and it's just not nice. That's spread, it's really prevalent, it's really high in places like swimming pools where people have got bare feet a lot, in the showers there and stuff like that. So we've done water, food, air and contact. The next one is by body fluids. And the virus that's spread by body fluids is the human immunodeficiency virus, also known as HIV, and this is the virus that causes AIDS. Finally, the final way of spreading pathogens, which I'll put over here, is by animal vectors. So this is number 6. So a vector is something that carries a disease. So an animal vector is an animal that carries the disease. So 2 major animal vectors that you need to know are the mosquito and this carries a parasite which causes malaria. Another animal vector that's mentioned is the housefly. And the housefly causes dysentery. Which is basically severe diarrhea. Okay, so that's pretty much pathogens and infections done. So we've talked about the fact, we've defined this because it's a key word, and we've said that a pathogen is a microorganism that causes disease. And we've taken this word apart, microorganism, to say that it's a living thing, an organism that's too small to see. And these things are everywhere. They can be in the water, so an example would be the cholera bacterium. They can be in food, so an example of that would be the salmonella bacterium, which can be found in things like undercooked or uncooked chicken and causes food poisoning, which is things like vomiting and diarrhea. Another way that pathogens can be spread are in the air. So coughs and sneezes spread diseases. Things like flu can be passed on through sneezing and coughs in the air. Number 4, contact or touch. So we've given an example of a pathogen that can be spread by touch, which is athlete's foot, which is a fungus. And then number 5 we said was body fluids. Another way that a pathogen can be spread is by body fluids, and the example of the virus that's spread this way is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, which causes AIDS, which is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Finally, another thing that can carry diseases are animal vectors, such as the housefly, which causes dysentery, which is basically severe diarrhoea, and the mosquito, which causes malaria. And that's pretty much done. So that's the full mind map for pathogens and infection, which is all of this covered rather than reading all of this. So the next thing we need to do is kind of following on from this is antiseptics and antibiotics. So that's next on my to-do list.